website will work much better on November 30th, December 1st, than it worked certainly on October 1st. That's a pretty low bar. By the time we look back on this next year, that people are going to say, this is working well.
Let me be clear. When I said end of November, I did not say which November.
Hey, welcome back to Morning Joe. We've got Nicole Wallace here, along with Caddy Kay in Washington. And join us at the table, the president, the CEO of the Aspen Institute, Walter Isaacson, making trouble out there yesterday, and former senior advisor to President Obama, and director of the University of Chicago's Institute of Politics, and MSNBC contributor David Axelrod. That was so much fun out there.
And I want you to know, I heard what you said earlier. After you left, they took a revote, and now the Republicans are 11% and the Marxists are 9%. You had an incredible impact on these kids.
You were able to move 2% of the Marxists and become Republicans.
See, Walter, I'm a transformative figure. So they asked me afterwards to meet with the young Republicans at the University of Chicago, and it was, I've got to tell you, academia is, a lot of big liberals running it, and they don't take care of Republicans and conservatives. I've got to tell you, Nicole, they put the young Republicans of Chicago and me in the nicest, most ornate phone booth they had on the entire campus.
You could all sit.
The truth is, there are some really good young Republicans.
There really are.
Yeah.
There really are, and it's a great group out there. And I was really inspired by the young people I met.
They do that for me every single day.
Yeah, I know they do, and I know you really wish that you were in Washington, D.C. in the bunker yesterday.
Yeah, I know, every second.
So, David, the president is in a no-win situation. We're going to get the news from Caddy in a second. Also, we've got the moderator of Meet the Press, David Gregory, with us, and also NBC News chief White House correspondent and political director and host of the Daily Rundown, Chuck Todd. You know what? Caddy, if we don't get the news from you right now with all of these great guests, we're never going to get it. Why don't you set it up for us, and we'll go around and get everybody's take on what happened yesterday. Some extraordinary events in Washington.
Yeah, it was a busy day. Let's get on with it. Two headlines say a lot this morning about the fight over Obamacare. In the Wall Street Journal, Obama retreats. And in USA Today, health law shakes the presidency. With Democrats threatening to revolt, the White House rolled out a plan yesterday that allows millions of people to keep their insurance plans that would otherwise have been cancelled under the new terms of the Affordable Care Act. It's meant to head off a vote in the House today on Republican legislation that permits insurance companies to offer their old pre-Obamacare policies, something the White House says will, quote, sabotage the law. President Obama spoke about his policy reversal yesterday and how the rollout has hurt Democrats, including his own presidency.
There is no doubt that our failure to roll out the ACA smoothly has put a burden on Democrats. I feel deeply responsible for making it harder for them rather than easier for them to continue to promote the core values that I think led them to support this thing in the first place. I was not informed directly that the website would not be working as the way it was supposed to. Had I been informed, I wouldn't be going out saying, boy, this is going to be great. You know, I'm accused of a lot of things, but I don't think I'm stupid enough to go around saying this is going to be like shopping on Amazon or Travelocity a week before the website opens if I thought that it wasn't going to work.
Yep, it certainly isn't Amazon. Well, despite President Obama's remarks, there remain several questions about what the White House can actually do to fix Obamacare's flaws. That includes whether or not insurance companies will actually allow people to stay on their current plans and how the changes will affect the price of coverage. House Speaker John Boehner raised that exact question earlier in the day.
So when it comes to this health care law, the White House doesn't have much credibility. And let's be clear, the only way to fully protect the American people is to scrap this law once and for all. There is no way to fix this. I'm highly skeptical that they can do this administratively. I just don't see within the law their ability to do that.
So, David, Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Katie.
Yeah, well, Republicans are going to carry on attacking this, Joe. The big question now really is whether Democrats are going to rally around the president and think that this fix, if it manages to work, is enough for them.
And you know, Katie, that's a great point, because Mary Landrieu, you heard Mary talk about how we needed this fix, we got this fix, and now she's saying this morning, well, it may not be enough, right? I mean, it's and that's the real question here, David, whether there's going to be enough for the Democrats. So in the middle, we're showing the president talking about I wasn't informed, and Nicole broke out in a sweat because she's been in that position.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking across the table and I'm thinking, here's a kindred spirit.
Yeah, but she was flinching.
No, it's not fun. I have great empathy for my colleagues in the White House. My operative theory in life is you're never as smart as you look when you're winning, and you're never as dumb as you look when you're losing. And I always kept that in mind in periods like this. You just have to fight your way through it.
So it is, though, difficult for the president to go out there and say, I wasn't informed, I didn't know what was going on. This is a signature piece of legislation. Wouldn't he have just, I don't know, it seems like it's just a lot better to say, hey, I screwed up, we screwed up. I should have paid. I don't know. It's because we've got this theme going, whether we're talking about, you know, NSA or whether we're talking about the AP dust up. So many things where the president just said, I didn't know.
Well, look, Walter is an expert on IT issues, and I think one of the things that comes out of this is there are two things that I take away from it.
Did you know you were an expert on IT issues?
He writes long books about things.
Okay.
Long, intriguing books, by the way.
Thank you very much.
But
You're just filibustering now. Answer my question.
I'm trying to think of an answer. No. But there are two things that come out of this. One is that IT and government needs to be generally looked at because it's way behind industry. But I also
I'm sweating.
But I think that there is an issue of what people told the president, and I think that there is an instinct to tell the president what he wants to hear. No. And you know,
you didn't do that.
Huh?
You didn't do that.
Right, and now I'm out of government. No, I didn't do that, but in part I didn't do that because I had a long history with him. I started with him when he was just back from law school in 1992, so we had a long relationship there. I think that, and I'm not talking about the close-in aides, but I'm talking about the people who were entrusted with technical aspects of this particular piece. One thing I would say, though, it's important to keep in mind when the Speaker says it's time to scrap this. And let's be clear, that's what they want. That's what the Upton bill is about. That's what they want. As we sit here today, there are millions of young people under 26 who have insurance. Every single person no longer has to face caps on their insurance. So if they get sick, they get thrown off their insurance. Young people with pre-existing conditions, something I care a lot about, have insurance. And so everybody who opposes this law has to say why they want to take this away from people.
And what the alternative is. Okay, let's go around. Chuck Todd, yesterday you were at the press conference. I think the president had to do it, but boy, it puts him in a difficult position on so many fronts, doesn't it?
It does, but it seemed like he was trying to offer his party, the Democratic Party, and basically all the panicked Democrats on Capitol Hill, a pound of flesh so that they don't vote for these other bills. That was one of the impressions I got. It was sort of, I mean, you know, how many times did he say, hey, I let a lot of people down, I let a lot of supporters down. All of that introspection.
Chuck, you've been there an awful lot. That's not something that this president or any president does.
I talked to one of the old guard in Obama land who said they'd never seen that in private from him. That was just, you know that he is having this is a moment that he hasn't experienced in national politics before, is the impression I was being given. And obviously we haven't seen that from him in the national stage like that before. I mean, this clearly is the low of his presidency politically right now, and I think the way, I mean, we obviously see it in the polls, but just the way probably he feels as his ability to lead the party, or frankly, hope that the party doesn't abandon him right now in this moment. But there was something that was overlooked at the presser yesterday. Everybody seems to have missed it's not the right word. There were so many other things. But the president seemed to hint that he's not happy with his staff, that he's not happy with the position he's been put in, and that he's going to do an after-action report. I got to think that that made a lot of people in the West Wing and a lot of people at HHS a little bit nervous.
And they should be very, very nervous right now. David Gregory, will this be enough, though? Will Democrats hold the line? We have concerns from Mary Landrieu. Obviously, a lot of Southern Democrats, a lot of red state Democrats running in 2014. Are they going to hold the line?
I've talked to some Democrats who are, the most optimistic spin they put on this is, well, we're taking on water here, but we're looking at polling that says that reachable voters, persuadable voters, independent voters in some of these districts still want to keep Obamacare even though they want it fixed. If these things gets into December or January without the health care website being fixed, then all of a sudden you're looking at a crisis. And there was so much anger at the White House this week, including in meetings where more junior West Wing staffers on health care were coming up, and they were just being excoriated by hardcore Democrats, supporters of this law, who stuck their neck out saying, you guys are in denial, and the president's got to do something. This struck me, to Chuck's point, kind of like the results of the midterm in 2006. When President Bush came out and said, you know, it was a thumping, and he ultimately dismissed Don Rumsfeld. That was a dark moment for the Bush presidency. This is not about life and death, but this is still about the defining issue and debate in the Obama presidency, which is what should government do and what can government do effectively.
And I think doesn't it also get to a point about management, about who there is, as David was suggesting, in the White House? Walter, I'd love to get your perspective on this. Who is there that goes into the president and warns him when things are going wrong? Does it take somebody with longevity like David, like Robert Gibbs had, to be able to do that? Or can somebody come in from the outside and say, we have to have somebody who goes in and says no and who says the hard stuff?
Well, I think the bigger problem was not having an ability to pull together an IT system like this, but you see that in private industry as well. You see airlines merge and not be able to get reservation systems right for a few months. Those are normal things that happen. So I think we're maybe overstating, gee, should he have been there knowing each line of code? I do think that right now he's got three problems to deal with quickly. One is getting the website right. The other is fulfilling or trying as hard as he can to fulfill the notion that you're not going to get canceled. And number three is restoring credibility.
Nicole?
David, I said earlier this morning that based on my experience of working for a president with these sorts of challenges, your guy misses his credibility. And I think one place where you miss your credibility the most is on the world stage. And right now, on this show yesterday, Secretary of State Kerry was basically calling anyone who was against this deal on Iran that was so bad. Last weekend, the French laughed it off the stage. You've got a White House press secretary saying that anyone who is against sanctions, which the last time you and I were on the show together, you were boasting about the president's incredible success in putting in place withering sanctions on Iran. It now sounds like you're taking a policy that was so effective, it brought Iran to the table, and you're calling anyone that's for sanctions, which your boss has been brilliant on, a warmonger. It seems like a lot of demagoguery that may be a result of this.
You're saying Jay Carney said that?
Jay Carney said that. On this show yesterday, Secretary Kerry said, get behind this bad deal or we're on a path to war in the region. It feels like the stress is coming through in a lot of demagoguery on the world stage.
Well, as you know, a lot of things happen at once, and you've got to do a lot of things at once in a presidency. I think what they're saying on Iran is that the regime of sanctions we have brought them to the table. We're at a critical juncture. Let's see where this leads before we vote on any additional sanctions. But let me make one point, Joe, on this health care issue.
Yeah.
One thing that I learned in Washington is every day is election day in Washington. But the fact is the election's a year from now. I believe the president and the administration are going to straighten out these issues. And I think there are going to be 6 other defining issues between now and next November that are going to determine this election. It is very hard for people to see that now.
Right.
And particularly those who are going to be on the ballot. But, you know, now if he doesn't get it right, if they don't get it right, then we'll be having a different discussion.
Yeah. Hey, so Chuck Todd, that is really what is it safe to say behind the scenes what drove this remarkable press conference yesterday?
I think
was a concern of Democrats that are up in 2014.
I think Democratic politics drove yesterday more than anything else. There was widespread panic on Capitol Hill this week among Democrats, House Democrats, Senate Democrats. This was not and then you basically when you watch Dianne Feinstein jump on the Landrieu bill, that was her standing up for her colleagues. That was her worrying about not her own politics. That was worrying about Senate Democratic politics, those red state senators. That was almost like banding together here. It's like, okay, if the White House is going to drop the ball on this, we've got to. It's every chamber for themselves. It's every part of the Democratic Party. It's survival. Yeah. So I think that's what absolutely drove the tone. But the bigger, the thing we're not really talking about, he didn't fix anything. There's nothing that was fixed because he doesn't have the power to do it. This is John Boehner's right, and by the way, the White House knows it.
David? I think that's a huge point, which is you have the politics which are immediate, which David Axelrod says could be resolved by next November. We don't know, only to be followed up by the policy implications here. Look how much focus there has been on canceled policies. That's not the biggest issue. That is 5% of the marketplace. A lot of those people can go and get better policies if only they could go and get better policies if the website were working. So that's why this is sucking so much oxygen out of the debate. The bigger issue is the concept of what's behind Obamacare, which is a mandate, which is the government saying, particularly to young and healthy people, you have to do something that, frankly, you don't want to do. And as I ask healthcare experts, they still say that's the big question. How are you going to get them to do that? And if you don't do that, then prices go up, and the whole deal of insuring Americans on a broad level is undermined or potentially fails. So I think that's the big thing.
Nicole, I mean, if David Axelrod is right, and if we're looking at this in a year's time going into the midterm elections, and the kinks in the website have been worked out, and enough young people, all ifs, and enough young people have signed up, there is a chance, isn't there, that Democrats can go into the midterms with a policy that actually does, at that stage, seem to be working. This may not end up being the disaster that Republicans are today assuming it will be.
Well, I think the problem that David's party has is that it's not just Republicans who assume it's going to be a disaster, it's Democrats. And as everyone just said, that's what brought President Obama to the White House briefing room to say things that in a million years I never thought I'd hear him say. So, I mean, to you, sure, every week is a lifetime, and it sure feels that way for a president watching his credibility numbers tumble because it makes it so much more difficult to get anything done, things that even both parties want. There are members of both parties who want immigration reform, and I saw George W. Bush try to do it with Senator Kennedy and Senator McCain in 2005. I don't buy that this is going to be, these are not glitches and these are not bumps. What has been laid bare are all the deficiencies and all the flaws with this idealistic progressive
the thing
vision
that I would
of
tell
government.
you is that throughout this, the same majority of people has said we want to move forward and fix this. We don't want to repeal it. We don't want to gut it. And, in terms of the Republican Party, they haven't gained a point during this whole episode because you can't gain if all you're doing is opposing. You can't gain if you don't have a plan of your own. We'll see how it all washes.
Walter, we've got to go, Walter. Sure. But the president's approval ratings are at an all-time low. The Republican Party's approval ratings are at an all-time low. I'm telling you, there are so many opportunities for politicians that want to take a new path forward, I think.
Yeah, but one of the things I think you have to keep in mind is people do want a health care system that works.
That's affordable.
And that's affordable. And that if the Republicans just say, we can destroy this one, it would be useful to come up with something better.
Well, and by the way,
there are Republican and conservative ideas for health care.
Well, of course there are, and that's how we get our numbers up. Mm-hmm. We don't, I've been saying for 5 years here, you don't beat something with nothing. Right. So yes, the president's suffering right now. His poll numbers are going down. The question is, what are we going to do to get our poll numbers up? So, hey, David Gregory, thanks so much for being with us. Who do you have on Sunday's Meet the Press?
Nancy Pelosi will get into the heart of this Democratic revolt, and she'll join us on Sunday.
Can you ask her if she knows what's in the health care plan yet? I'm sorry, Nancy. I'm just joking. Come on. I love you, but I'm still
old habits die hard.
They really do, don't they? So, hey, Chuck,
David
we're going to see you. Who do you have on the Daily Rundown?
I got doing the
you
chairman
don't really
of the Florida Republican Party, buddy.
You were like Axelrod answering that question on Obamacare.
No, your buddy Lenny Curry. He's going to explain to me why the Florida Republicans aren't looking as bad, aren't as bad as it looks right now. For
Okay, well, very good. Looking forward to that. David, thank you so much.
Good to be here.
Great time yesterday.
Yeah,
thanks
for
inviting
coming
me
out.
It was a lot of fun. Walter, stay with us. And coming up next, he's delivered the keynote address at last year's Democratic convention in San Antonio. Mayor Castro standing by. Plus, from the Ending Spending Action Fund, Brian Baker, I'm going to ask him if what he did in the Alabama 1 special election is a future roadmap for Republicans going back to the majority in the Senate. You're watching Morning Joe. We'll be right back.